All right, we will call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. with a flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Any amendments to the agenda this evening?
Just have one question. So an email was sent out with the checks and said that they are now going to the board and needing to be approved, and I didn't see them on the agenda.
Not approved. So what our auditor said is he wants the board to be able to review them, but not that we don't need to approve them, just
Oh,
review.
okay.
So we're doing it via email. And then
Okay.
if you guys have questions, you can email Dawn and I.
Okay, so they don't need approval. Okay,
They're just for your reference.
okay.
Thank you for that question.
I would like to amend the agenda to add an item under new business to discuss student involvement with the board.
Laura, do you know what that's gonna be? Under new business?
5C.
5C?
Sorry, next time I'll make note of that.
Sorry, no, it's fine.
As she's typing on her.
I know, I decided to do this differently and now I'm regretting my choices in life. Okay, and
Student involvement with the board.
And then I would like to add 5D. You help me out by that one. Now I know what it is, 5D. So that we can discuss and approve evaluation standards and process for the superintendent evaluation.
Say that one more time.
Approve evaluation standards and process for superintendent evaluation.
If I could spell, it might be all right.
Any other adjustments?
Crawling here.
Or amendments? All right, hearing none, we will go ahead and approve the agenda. Next up is our consent agenda.
A motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and vote. Laura? Russ?
Yes.
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 Yes. You? Patron comments? Anything from you, Laura? All right, we'll move into reports. Superintendent report, you're up.
So, I can't get on it, so it's slowly.
Yeah,
want mine?
mine's like really slow.
Okay,
too.
good.
I was like, my internet is
There you go.
crawling over here.
Just
Let me bring it up. A little bigger for you.
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
I hope you all got to see the gym floor as you walked through. It
No, it's
actually
beautiful.
makes the whole place look brighter. So, it was great. We love the floor. It's funny because when you redo the gym floor, it makes everything else. So Keenan and I have been like, maybe we need to get new mats now or repaint. So, it's great. I love it. There will be an expectation that no street shoes will be on the floor for class or anything. So we put out there that they need to wear gym shoes. That is going to be an expectation. That is a change of habit, but we're going to do that. I attended the summer assessment conference and it sounded like there was some workshops that were very similar to the fall or the spring or summer OSBA. So I attended early literacy, state funding, team dynamics, early indicator system. We also had an AI presentation, which was great. I also am part of a COSA statewide work group, the student services group. We're talking about priorities to bring to the legislature in terms of what should be funded and what should priorities be for funding. Dawn and I are going to go over the grants to talk about where we're at in terms of the grants that we have gotten through the state. Please remember, a lot of these grants are based on ADMW. And we know that our ADMW is going down, which affects our allotment. This is one that we knew was coming. And it's really important to us to remember that what's ultimately happening is now we're getting money where we should be getting money. So we are going to talk about that more. We have quite a bit of a decrease, but we were working on such an inflated ADMW that we knew, I mean, Don was pretty spot on in how much he thought most of those grants would go down. I hope that you all got a chance to look at our new website. It went live last Monday. Laura spent a lot of July working on it. We spoke with Devin and Tim at the, I think it looks spectacular. We are still refining it. Our goal is to make it as informative as possible and not just bogged down by everything. But I would really encourage you all, if you wanted to go look at it after, it looks like they sent us and they're like, your new website is up. And I clicked on it and was like, oh my gosh. So kudos to Laura. She worked really hard. She called other people around our region to see what they did, and it looks great. If you get a chance to, as you walk out, and I'll try to open the doors, you can see the new windows in the kindergarten and second grade room. They look spectacular. We're continuing to move rooms, cleaning. We spent 2 days last week going through the 2 Connexes by the preschool. That's why the surplus list was so long. There was so much shoved in there that it literally took us 2 days to go through it. And so we are trying to use as much as we can for our staff, but there's some stuff that was in there just shoves, it broke, and there was a lot of broken things in there. So we actually filled a whole dumpster, and we're probably getting close to filling a second one with just cleaning up around. The other thing that we found were records. And so Dawn and Laura are going to spend probably this year going through old records and keeping what we need to keep and shredding what we don't need to keep. I mean, it's just shoved in there. So my goal by this time next year is that we're actually like, we have systems and we're not, just putting things and saying we'll save them for a rainy day. Because even if they're broken and we fix them, you have to think about not only the piece to fix, but also the time that we pay people to fix it and things like that. I also shared with you all the district in-service calendar. I will update you that schedule. There are some things that change, but you are all more than welcome to join us for district breakfasts, the barbecue, which actually I think we're going to end up doing like a taco salad bar, and then staff training. So we are going to train on CPI, which is Crisis Prevention Institute. It's a process of proactive for de-escalation of behaviors. And we also are going to do the staff violent incident protocol training in the library of the Alice training. And so you guys are more than welcome to join us on any of that. Any questions?
I appreciate the schedule. It's nice to be able to see what's going on.
Yes, and so everybody will be here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So.
You said that staff violent incident protocol is the Alice training.
And so it's just going to be a basic 2-hour. We're going to go through stuff. I'm not going to go through any simulations, but we're going to get the basic of what it looks like. What should you have in your room? What should you say if you think there's issues? And then Keenan and I have been really going around talking about our grounds. One of the goals that we're going to do this fall is if you look at a lot of our gates, some of them are push, but some of them have a lock on it. So if you're by the playground and you need to get out quickly, the closest gate actually has a lock on it. So it's like, who's going to be like, oh, so we actually have some bids out to get push on every single gate, because to me, if there's an issue on the playground, I want them to get out as soon as possible. And the adult should not be like, which key is it? They should be able to get. So we're also, Keenan and I have been really walking around, and we're going to bring Joe in on it as well to say, how can we make our campus safer? And we should hear about the grant that I wrote, the COPS grant. We should hear about it in the fall to see if we get that money to upgrade safety protocols. So
Those locks, I think the fire department has a key too also in case they need to do life flight. So just heads up on that they use those.
Well, the locks are the same as any, they're just the master key.
Oh, I just meant like if we change them to a push though, how would
The
how
lock
would the
to
fire
get,
department be able to get in?
to get in, it's the same key. They're all
Oh.
master keys. It's, yeah.
That was
Wasn't there concern about runners?
There's always concerns about runners, but I think there's protocols you can put into place to ensure that they don't go that far.
Because that
Um,
was one of the things that was presented to the community is why we had to fence our campus, so just.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, it's not that I'm taking down the fence. It's
Right.
that when you go to a gate, especially by the playground, and if we had, let's say, a shooter shooting at the kids at the playground and they're at the CTE building and they're coming straight, we want to get the kids out the other way. And a big concern of mine is we have a lot of padlocks on gates that could be used to get out quickly. And so and that's a hard piece as well because
Well, yeah, because that doesn't really secure campus if you take those locks off, right?
well, it does, you can't get in. But my,
Kids can get out. So
well,
that's what I'm saying,
yeah.
the argument of they were needed for runners is gonna be a tough one to argue, but it makes sense. in
well,
every
and
direction.
I'll be honest with you. I haven't had an elopement of a child this year. Because that's why we do the CPI training is how do we not get to that behavior. So,
That's good.
yeah,
I
so,
think they also have push to release that have a delay and an alarm on them.
yeah.
So you can always get the one with the audible alarm, so someone knows if they've been pushed.
And I believe the audible alarm, there's one on, is it the emergency one on the CTE? That push bar actually has an audible alarm? Okay, we could do
I mean,
that,
it's something to look into.
Yeah.
It might be very expensive, who knows, but
but I don't disagree.
Are you
Then-
doing certificates for
Wow,
the Alice training?
No, because it's not gonna be the full training. I'm just gonna put the incident protocol in.
Okay.
And then we'll start going that direction.
The reason I ask is they've been doing 2-hour block ones at my,
They've been doing what? I'm sorry.
2-hour
Mhm.
Alice trainings at my work.
Mhm.
And I want to take it, but I haven't had a chance to get into one of theirs, so I would rather come do it with all you guys.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the stuff that we won't do, it'll be a 4 hour where you actually go and do simulations. But we're gonna talk, I will have all the same materials and everything to go through it. So, yeah. Okay, that's all I got.
You've been busy. Thank you.
And next month, we will take a tour of the CTE building because it looks spectacular. I might have accidentally put a fingertip on the wet paint today. But it looks spectacular. Dawn and I took a tour of it today and it's amazing. So we will do a field trip next month.
All right, financial summary. Mr. Staley.
and
Did
I
did
learned.
we have, did we remind you or did Laura say something? on your
She
way up?
lectures me on that.
Okay.
Laura wouldn't do that.
I know Laura well now. Statements are in front of you. I think the main thing is, we went through the first part of the audit. There's no problem. The books are roughly closed. We've billed all grants. I think I've got everything balanced. We've even got payroll set up for this year. Did all agreements for all the staff already. Calendars are out. And Krista and I have been working on the integrated budget. I think we've got that all set up. But the main thing, there's not any changes from the last month's financial statements. I know Nancy and Chris and I are all in agreement how many dollars are there. And so I feel very comfortable on that. The main thing is by September 30th is to close out the ESSER dollars by then. I think that's, we have to get the final billing from CB on that. Other than that, the main issue I think we want to talk about, and I can go over the statements real
It is.
briefly.
I don't see it in the packet,
It was in the packet.
the one online,
Yeah,
because the one online is,
yeah, it's right in the
it's not
middle.
the updated one though.
Yeah, the updated, the one I just gave you.
Yeah, but it's not online. The updated one is not.
No,
online.
I just gave that to you. I
Oh,
didn't,
okay.
I did,
Okay.
I was going to have you talk globally
Okay,
about
okay,
that.
okay.
But I'll go over the statements real quick. Financial statements, we're still looking at close to 6.7 fund balance. And I told you that during the budget process, we budgeted 6 million. And for the public, if they're watching and everybody else, that's due to the elevated ADM from the previous years. Because they're always paying on the higher of the 2 years. So when you lose a lot of students, you still get the same amount of money, and staffing was accordingly to the current. So that's where that's built up, and we're planning on how to use those dollars to maintain programs. And so you don't come into the same situation some school districts are looking at right now. And that's the last thing we want. Going through the special revenues, and I'll come back to the statement after I'm done, Krista. Grants are all billed out. You'll see the balance over there is the dollars that are being carried over to the year. Most of the grants have till September 30th. All federal grants have a different fiscal year, and they end on September 30th. So we plan on the September payroll to cover a lot of those expenses. Or the one that we are planning to spend a significant amount of dollars that has to be spent by the end of September is the SIA dollars. They don't carry any further, so those dollars are going to be used for various items in the CTE building and that. And I think Krista payroll and
Some STEM stuff.
it softens the blow for the rest of the year because we're losing significant dollars in there. On the debt service, as we budgeted, that would be on page 9. I'm not going to go over page 8, but page 9, 26,000. We figured that in the budget, and that's keeping our rate per thousand flat. And that's the goal in the debt service, is not have debt service rate per thousand go up and down, because the community won't understand that at all. You want to keep it flat from year to year as much as possible. Capital projects, we have $282,000 in there at the end of the year. We've used part of that for window replacements, and we're doing that. But also one thing that should have been done in previous years, and I did this year, the interest earned on those dollars should have been recorded in there, and I recorded them for this year, and there's 13,000 rather than just dollars sitting there and the general fund getting it. Those dollars should have been getting the interest also. And so I've been recording that in there. So that's kind of offsetting the replacement of the windows in itself. And the board it's their decision on how to use those dollars with Krista. Bond and the Awesome grant that ends on September 30th. We'll claim the last 300 and some thousand dollars on Awesome, and then we've collected all the 2.1 million, which is a good thing. And Chris and Nancy will go over where we're at on the bond and how many dollars, and we record interest in there, and we recorded 88,000 so far through June 30th, and then there was dollars in July that we also recorded. Other than that, if we go back to that page in the middle on grants, what I did here, and I gave Krista an updated, which I added another column, and I apologize, I didn't have it in here, but we can go over it. On page 8, we're showing the grant amounts and what we adopted in 24-25. And the dollars that are carried over and what was awarded. And what I did, the change here is where we are compared to budget. And you'll notice everything's pretty close, except we were kind of surprised on the high school, the high school HSS, because they gave me a different number. Because I thought we were having it on the number of high school students, and they've done something different. We lost 30,000 there, which was a shocker. The 150,000 carryover.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
No, you can always ask questions.
Well, I know, I just don't want to lose my thought on this one. So what are they measuring it on if they're not measuring it on high school students?
I have to.
Here's the deal on this one. We all got every single district, with the exception of 3, lost more money than we thought in the state. So we currently are waiting for ODE to tell us why. We lost more than what Dawn anticipated, and I have an email out to them to ask them why. Because the problem that we have when we budget is we don't actually get even the estimated allocations. They'll be like, do it on your ADMW. And Dawn, I will tell you, told this board this spring that we would carry over about 6.7 million. Dawn was at 6.72 million. And Dawn said we'll probably lose about 40% of our SIA. We lost 42%. So I don't believe Dawn was off that much. So because I mean, if you're off 20,000 on 6.7 million, like we're doing okay. So I have an email out to ODE to say, one, it would be nice if we could actually get our allocations when we budget, and two, why were we off by so much? Because we were told this, and this is what we estimated on. So I don't know why, but every single district last week lost they probably lost about 10% of their allocation than what we actually thought we would have.
Mhm.
I
So-
didn't mean to sound critical in that
No.
question. Sorry, I was just
You're
trying to
never critical.
understand if ODE, like what their standard was.
Well,
We're not sure. I have an email out.
there's a lot of things we're never sure about,
Yeah.
but we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
The big thing is, like on the SIA, it shows the change of 156. Well, really what that is the carryover dollars. That's nothing more than the carryover dollars. And those have to be spent by September 30th. What we want to go over, and I was going to have Krista do, is I have another sheet, and I apologize that I don't have that for you, is showing what the award was for last year compared to what the award is this year. And I'll just go over those quickly, and then Krista can go into depth how we're dealing with it and what's there. In Title I, we've lost 10,000. In IDA, we've lost 50,000. In early literacy, we're losing 32,000. In the federal school improvement, we're losing 33,000. In SIA, we're losing 376,000. And in the high school success, we're losing 30,000. Now, we knew a lot of those already, and those were developed in the budget, and we were already we know the staff. And so we were planning that. But this is just the first step. I mean, that's a lot of money. Yeah, getting
Well,
evened out.
And we just found our allocation out for early literacy today.
Right.
And again, everything is based on ADMW. And so when you add all that up, that's about $525,000 we lost. But we knew that because we were getting on
Right.
that inflated ADMW. And so, when we look at a lot of things, we have to decide what we're gonna cut. Because of the SIA, we lost, it was 42%, which Dawn estimated about 40. I had to take some stuff out of the SIA and put back in the general fund, like salaries, which means then our general fund, we're digging more into our reserve. When we talked about, and I'll just be honest with you, we talked about IDEA, that's a whole position that we have to put in the general fund. So those are the things when we talk about the CSI, TSI, which is the school improvement, that's about 0.5% that we've taken out. High school success, which really can only be spent at the high school, that's when you look, a lot of this is salaries. And so we're having to put a lot of that in our general fund. And so, we have to make decisions on where we're going to go, because you can only have so much reserve. And eventually, if you keep using that reserve and don't go to where you need to go in terms of staffing or buildings based on numbers, that reserve is going to be gone in 4 or 5 years. So do I like that number? I don't, but it's not unexpected, because we're never going to get as much as we got before because of our declining enrollment. And a lot of it had to do with that number was inflated because of our online students.
We have to look at also that high number gave you the surplus that you did things that you couldn't do before, for like putting into the CTE building and supplies and various areas like that. The reason they have the higher the 2 years is it gives you time to plan. And so now you can plan where we're going, because we're using about $1.2 million of reserves. this next year to maintain the general fund. So after this year, it would be down to 4 point whatever it might be, or 5. And so we need to plan in the budget development where we're going to go. And I think we have all salaries already set. So the next statements I give you will show you where we're at on projections on salaries. I can't tell you on supplies and various things because those are purchased, but you can assume where that's going to be. But the big number that I'm waiting for is the student count. And if they come in lower, it's going to be easy. It's going to be the number for last year. It's the higher of the two. So you can already start projecting where you're going to be in revenues, but then it's going to be the next year after that. And so it's just kind of the stair step, but to plan on where you're going. And so the next statements I bring you will know the student counts, the first numbers. We can compare that to what we did on the budget and look at how that impacts in the state school support and go from there.
And I do think, I've sent out in prior, in my super updates, I started sending out articles that talks about, research behind student success. And so I think as we move forward and we start strategically planning, we need to really look at research and see what is student success. What do they say has the highest efficacy? How do we ensure that this building is sustainable for 50 to 100 years from now? I don't ever want to be like some of our sister districts in our region where they say, in our region, our state, where they say, if we don't pass a bond, we have to shut because our buildings will be condemned. We have to make those decisions on where do we want us to be 50 years from now.
How is enrollment looking?
Pardon?
How is enrollment looking?
Well, we're still registering. Registering's tough because people sometimes, don't think they have to register their kid.
Right, till they get
Or
there.
they're like, I'll just show up on the first day of school. So it's really hard to say right now. We're probably at about 50% of where we were last year. Would you agree with that, both in Learn at Home and online? So we're going to start calling people to say, please register your kid. Because it's hard. I mean, bus routes depend on number of kids. And so if we don't have numbers of kids, we might have to cut a bus route. But then, we might get an influx mid-September being like, oh yeah, we forgot.
But didn't last year, wasn't registration like the week before school started?
It is, but
So, like I know we tried to do it earlier this year, but historically, maybe people are thinking like,
I don't disagree with you. That's why I was like trying to hold off a little bit, but everybody in our region's like, dude, enroll your kid.
oh
And I'm
yeah,
like,
you
I
need
want to
tell
jump in
them.
before they.
I just wonder if it's that mindset of it's always the week school
Yep.
starts the week before. Like,
Mhm.
We really got to change that. That's killer on my nerves.
well, I did it early because I knew
I
my
did
wife
too.
wouldn't, so I logged in and registered them all because
Good
I was
for
like,
you.
I don't know, get done until school starts.
So yeah, so Laura and Roxy and Nicole and Kayla are gonna start calling kids that we know and like, let's register.
Alrighty.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll know in a week and a half.
That page up just for you.
Ugh.
All right, bond report. Chris and Nancy.
So slow tonight, my computer. Mine's doing all right. Yeah, I noticed. This one loaded fast. The financial took forever.
There you go.
Feels so important with the microphone.
The most popular people in town.
Oh, that's a nice thing to say
Not.
this week. Yeah. I hope you guys all have our report in front of you. It's a very busy report these days. But we are excited because the final inspections will be happening this Thursday on the CTE building. And so we hope to have the occupancy and everybody starts moving in next week on schedule. I don't know if you guys remember when we first went out the RFP for this, some of the construction companies said it couldn't be done before school started. And Todd was the one company that said it could be done, and it looks like they're going to do it. Yeah. So hopefully, if you've walked by, you've seen that there's a nauseatingly green tint to the soil out there. They've even got the lawn blown out there now. So hopefully within about a month or so, we'll be able to do an open house and everybody can go through and see this really cool
completion of a part of the promise that they got with the bond. This is super exciting to see this portion of the bond done.
But just to add, to delineate too, like Nancy said, once we get occupancy, they can start moving in. Now it's no longer a construction zone. The school really has control of that facility. And we'll have a punch list. We'll be in there working on some final quality issues and things for several weeks. But at that point, it's open. So it's your facility. They're going to be removing temp fences this week. The trailer will be gone early next week. The parking lot cleared out. So it's very exciting. It belongs to the school on Monday.
Yay!
You guys should be very proud. This is something this was a promise in the bond, that you guys are going to be able to go to your whole community and say, we fulfilled that promise. The next thing that is on your report is the seismic upgrade. We're moving forward with the design on that. I'm going to let you talk about where we are with that today.
Sure. Yeah. So we're probably about 20% done with design. And they're working on what the schematic design drawings, which gets us to about 50%. And the goal is to have those done by the end of September. So we've got ongoing design meetings that we're having with Soderstrom and with ZCS. And then this week on Thursday, there's just a lot of parts and pieces to this. We're having the concrete walls scanned to see if there's rebar inside of them or what the condition of them is. We're having some samples taken of the concrete and the masonry so that they can do compressive tests to see what the strength is. This is old 1950s construction. So they've got to come up with a design. All that is going to hopefully eliminate a lot of surprises when we get into the construction. So anyway, that's where we are in design. And then we're still waiting on proposals for contractors. They were due this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And one company for sure told us that they were proposing, but we didn't receive any, which is really strange. So I've got feelers out to everybody to find out why. Was there some misunderstanding or something? So I don't know what's going on there yet. But anyway, we've got time to resolve that. I'm confident we'll find a good contractor who'll do the construction for us. So that's what's up with seismic, I believe.
Yeah. And one thing to mention also, where the budget for the CTE building has come in, we've come in under budget on that also. So there's about, if you may remember, we originally had $60,000 in contingency on that project. We're returning $100,000 to the school district for use on other things.
And that's really thanks
That's
to
thanks to
what
Don.
Don did with that interest, putting that into that. So yeah, I mean, because we have had some costs, as he said, there was a good amount of interest in there. So yeah, we're actually going to return more than the original contingency. So that can go to other projects.
And then the third subject that we've been discussing kind of between Krista and the design team and stuff is the potential for doing a kitchen in a commons. And we've been looking at ideas and possibilities. It's a very convoluted subject, but what we're hoping to do and what they're doing initial conceptual design for is to put it outside the gym right next to the CTE building, so that we have a location where the high school kids can get back and forth to it, but also the elementary kids can get to it without having to go into the high school wing. We feel that at this point, our expectation is that a new building will be less expensive and less problematic on about 5 different levels than trying to renovate where the kitchen currently is.
And so you have some information in your report. I think there's even a diagram at the bottom of the report that kind of shows the initial concept. There's another meeting the first week of September. I think perhaps 1 or 2 of you might be joining for that meeting to listen in. One thing we did hear in this last meeting, Soderstrom did a very high level conceptual cost estimate, and they're projecting it at about 3.4 million. Now, frankly, I believe their numbers are extremely conservative. They're using some very high dollar per square foot numbers, very high soft cost contingencies, things like that, which frankly is not a bad place to be right now when there's so many unknowns. I feel confident that we can get it below that to, I mean, I'd be surprised if it's more than 2.5 at the end of the day, or even 2, depending on what we do. But right now we're approaching it from a standpoint with them of we do want to kind of maybe cut down the commons, see what we can do for some more efficiency elements, and then see where we are at the end of our conceptual design. Probably we'll have more information for you at the next board meeting.
Does anybody have any questions on what we've shared with you so far?
I think the only other thing we wanted to mention to you that's not in our report is regarding the EPA Resilience Hub grant. And so that is actually getting some steam now, finally, after months and months. We had a very good meeting with Benton County, and they've got a grant writer, federal grant writer on board who's now engaged, and we were finally able to connect with him to find out what information they need for this project and two others, in Philomath, one in Philomath, one in Monroe, that would combine together for a $20 million grant. So we were able to talk to Benton County and suggest that really we ought to be applying for more like 5 million in construction value, plus all the design and everything else on top of that. And they agreed to that in this last meeting. So that was a good hurdle to get past. And so we're putting together some plans, meeting with Krista on some of the details there. But that could include the construction costs for the kitchen and the commons building. If that's successful, we hope that they submit that grant application in September. And we're hearing that they're passing these grants, that they've got $2 billion earmarked federally for that. And so a lot of these are getting awards. We're just trying to get in there. November is the ultimate deadline. And we understand that really within 2 to 3 months of the application, they're making awards. So it could be, hopefully by the end of the year, we might find out that that's been awarded.
And so what that means for our project is that we're talking with the architect about the kitchen and the commons and saying, we need a conceptual design that's in our budget. But we want you to understand that there's the potential that this could, so that we're kind of getting 2 conceptual designs from them in one time of where we could be with our limited budget and where we could be if we get this resiliency hub.
Didn't that resiliency hub have a section in it about solar power?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot in there about sustainability, and one of the elements that would actually be required for it is an emergency generator. So, which is what we want for the school. So there's a lot of elements in there that it's not just fluff. There are things that really would serve not just the community, but serve the school.
That usually comes with high maintenance and replacement costs.
The solar?
Yeah.
It's a long-term, it's really kind of a long-term. Yeah, if you keep it, you find a lot of them after 20, 25 years, maybe abandoned.
But we are hearing more and more people saying that they're not having as many issues as they used to.
Yeah, fortunately, technology is definitely improving. Maintenance on it for the most part is just semi-annual cleaning, getting up and cleaning the panels. And that's not an easy thing, depending on the size of it.
In addition to the kitchen and the commons, it likely will also include showers, an electrical vehicle station, some of the things that aren't necessarily directly beneficial to the school. However, the community it'll be a huge benefit to the community. So there's some real opportunity if this comes through to both meet the school's needs and to have this great resource for our community.
Do you need anything from us on that?
Nope, Chris and I have been working on it. When I say Chris and I, Chris has been working on it and I've been his cheerleader over Zoom. So I'm sorry, Microsoft Teams. But we're gonna meet next week to kind of go from there. I'm not sure like if we need letters of support. I mean, we actually saw it. You showed me the grant application. I was like, wow.
It's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
It's almost a postcard of, yep, we want some money.
Yep, pretty much.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
No, that memo that came across about not doing the commons to save money, I don't think that would be very doable. I mean, where would they eat, right? Like, what would be the
Right. In fact,
trade-off
we
there?
had conversation with Krista earlier this week. That was something that was discussed in the meeting. It was suggested that if we really had to be at about half the budget, that's something we could do. The main objective is getting the kitchen. There isn't a good solution. And so the conversation we had is, no, let's proceed with the conceptual design that includes a commons. It may be smaller, maybe it serves 75 students, not 100, but we need to include a commons. Okay. Yeah. Any other comments? Thank you. We absolutely, as we go through, we appreciate any of the ideas or thoughts as we.
Yeah, hopefully I can make the next meeting if someone else isn't. I know the last one I happened to have surgery that day. You were probably working.
I will say it was interesting, but a lot more questions were raised and answered.
Yeah,
There were
sure.
questions when we went in, and then at the end, there were way more questions.
Right.
And I remember at the time, thinking, I should wish Deb were on this one. Because they showed the different kitchen orientations, like, well, this one looks better for working in the kitchen to me. This one looks better for the students. I'm like, but I don't work in a kitchen. You should wish Deb were here.
I wish I were there.
So
And-
my,
Well, it's not set in stone.
And we'll try to have it later. Deb, I think you said after 3 would work better for you. We'll try to make sure those meetings are scheduled later in the day.
I saw that you had a meeting next week, right, the 21st?
That was actually to look at any proposals that came in for the contractor on
Okay,
the
so we're not
seismic.
doing that now?
I'll
Not
find
yet.
out. Find out what's going on.
There you go.
Right, because I'm available at 4.
And that's what we were trying to do too, is schedule that later in the day as well.
Yeah.
That's the
And
size.
if you need, like around 3:15, if you want, you can always meet up at the cafe too.
Nice,
We can meet in the back room or even in the dining room once I close. It's no big deal.
very good, thank you.
So,
one thing I know, this is a public meeting, so all this information is public. However, I think we need to discuss potentially making some of this more visible to the community in some way, shape or form, whether we convert our bond webpage into capital improvements. So the community can see all the things that we're working on and getting improvement and explaining where the funding's coming from. So there's just no secrets, nothing hidden, and get it out there a little bit better, and maybe some social media posts was my thought. So just for the record.
Well, and we do put like Nance, so the construction manager reports up there, and I think you're right. I think once we get past the bond, we can do some conversion on that. It's just, like right now with the funding, it's so in the air, like I
Yeah.
think we really do need to know where the funding's coming from, whether it be IRA grants or, we get some other resiliency grant, but I don't disagree with you.
I will add, I'm gonna speak for you, Storm, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one thing that we see at this table is we see all this work, but the community is still not seeing it, and not by nobody's fault, right? But I mean, that'd be super great if we could start blasting some of this, but, and the webpage looks amazing. Good job.
There were
It
people
does, I
who were-
really-
Well, I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it, right? There's just Heather on the Zoom and all of us here. So either people are really happy enough that they're not getting involved. They do drive by. It's a very small town. No one lives here that doesn't see the CTE building. I would like to believe that, right? Because it seems like when people are upset, they come or join in, and they tell us what we need to hear or they want us to hear. So, I mean, but I agree with you. I share with people like what we're talking about as a board, like looking at getting a kitchen, looking at these things. I don't know, or maybe people have just plumb given up and half the kids are leaving.
And I'm just saying, we have a duty to them as well to potentially get some feedback.
I mean, my biggest thing is what we talked about last year when I joined the board is how do we get the community excited about our school again? I think this building's great. Now we have to do something with it that excites the students and other students. How do we get people excited about expanding the school, and how do we build this energy to where people want to bring their kids to school here? I mean, all of these things I believe are really the school board's job. I mean, Krista is already encumbered enough with what she does every day in her 5 hats and the teachers. But, I think as a board this year, when school starts, we need to really look at how do we build this vision of the CTE building and the things that we want to achieve to the community.
I think that could be a part of our strategic planning, and I have in my notes mentioned a little bit later on. We sat in a couple of sessions that talked about community engagement, and I've got a list of ideas started of things that we could potentially do and support.
From
I-
our,
I
from,
think- oh, sorry.
sorry,
It's much to your point that people maybe aren't watching the board meetings because now maybe they just trust us to do it all right. But there are people who are probably still interested, but they're not motivated to watch the board meetings. We can still blast out.
Oh,
all the
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
to do that.
No, I think it's great to put it out there. I'm just saying maybe to some extent, people are watching. I mean, we're actually seeing things happen this year,
Yes.
right? Unlike the prior year where a lot of money was spent and there was a 1 foot hole in the ground with some gravel on it, right? Like,
It
so,
was called the swimming pool.
right.
Mhm.
So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I
And don't
guess
wanna start breaking
for
ground on
me,
something and
like-
Not have blasted it to the community that, like, there's gonna be another pool in the yard for a little bit, cause we're. working on this
right, like maybe we
project,
should
so-
talk about getting a pool for the school so we can have
No,
swim
we don't
team.
want
you know,
that.
like- No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But I
I got
guess
some
my
feedback
point,
from one of our communities on that.
my point is I just hope that what we're doing is building a brand for the school, because without it, you know, we can build a beautiful building, but if we can't fill it, it's pointless. So.
And well, I was just gonna say, and our objective too is regarding the bond program, we know it started rough. We all know that, is that we finish so strong and that we get the word out to the community that if there was discussion in the future years of a bond, nobody's looking back and go, wow, that was a failure.
So my toy that I'm playing with right now, that I'll just mention to you guys. It's been a debacle, and everybody in the state knows it's been a debacle. And you guys have done such a magnificent job of getting it all together and getting it going in the right direction. We have successfully done what we initially said that bond had to do. We were gonna get a CTE building. There's other things that are promised, and many of those are in the works. This is a terrific opportunity if we can find the Gazette Times interest in this school to put out a headline that says Alcee bond turnaround, super success, something that not just Alcee, but everybody who's related to Alcee is going to see. This is a super success. This is a major turnaround, and it's going to get people excited about the community again and say, wow, Alcee's getting their act together as much as anything. And that's not me as a project manager talking, that's me as a community member talking. But I think it would be really terrific if we have an open house to get the Gazette Times here, to get OSB here, you know, get people here to see what you guys have done.
Well, I will say, Adam announced in front of Olive Conference today, this last weekend, he referred to our board as a rising phoenix.
Well, that's
So,
great. We love
I thought that was kind of powerful because we have done a lot of good things, and so we should be proud of ourselves.
All right. I appreciate you guys. I think we all appreciate
Yeah.
you.
you guys-
More to come, right? Thank you guys.
As much as you say it's us, without you, I don't think this would have ever happened.
Absolutely.
So-
Agreed. All right, let's jump into new business. Laura printed you guys out some stuff. Also, it's the same that's in here in our packets, but sometimes it's easier, however format you choose. So one thing that we did last year when we actually did a work session is we mapped out all the dates for the superintendent evaluation. You'll notice on the pre-evaluation planning, the third item, it says approve evaluation standards and process, which is a vote. That was my mistake, but we have another vote this evening to vote on that last.
Oh, the dates are in one and not the
Yeah,
other. I was
so-
trying to figure out what the difference was.
Sorry, one has the 23-24 dates,
Okay.
and
Oh,
then
and we're gonna
we'll
the
fill
other-
in. So
Oh, okay.
what I did,
Sorry, I was really
without talking to anybody, was pencil in just on my copy what the around the same dates would be that aligned with last year's. So I thought we could go through and start setting those, especially the pre-evaluation and quarterly check-ins. We may have to move things. I think we've had to move things in the past. That's our life, right? So for calendar evaluation, do you guys mind if I run through the dates?
No,
and-
go
Is
ahead.
that what you guys want to do? Is that okay?
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
So for pre-evaluation planning, for the calendar evaluation dates, I put 8/13, which is tonight. That's what we do. And then I wrote 10/1, the 24th, for established superintendent goals.
Could we just do it at the next, that
Yeah.
one, which would be 10/8, right?
That is, yep.
I
And
was
that's
just
where,
gonna say, that doesn't align with our meeting date though, 10/1.
no, it doesn't. That would just, that's why I just aligned it with last year. So that's why I would like, absolutely, these are all up for conversation.
And I do
change.
believe the Super Bowl, wasn't it a work session?
No, your superintendent goals, okay, maybe, but I feel like you presented it to us in open session
Okay.
and we voted on them.
Okay.
So I feel like because remember the superintendent goals were the ones where they said you don't have to always do those your first year.
Mhm,
And you said, no, I wanted to do those the first year.
mhm.
So we're
Can I
doing
skip
this-
on my?
I think you should
So-
present them to us and then we'll vote on them.
Sorry, you've had your one chance.
I don't need a
Yeah,
work meeting
sorry.
for your goals, but hey.
So
Um,
establishing superintendent goals, we're looking at 10/8.
10/8 then, yep. And then if it's, I mean, it's up to the description. I put 8/13 into the approve evaluation standards and processes / vote. So that's what is on a vote this evening. If we don't want to do that tonight, we can always move it to next month as well.
No, I think that's fine.
Because we would just use this same worksheet that we've
Yeah,
used.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute too, yeah. Okay, so fall check-in, these again in line with last year, so 10/8, that's a board meeting night. Are you good with that being your superintendent goals approval
Mhm.
too?
Mhm.
Okay. And then 12/10 is a board meeting night. And that would be for the winter check-in. And then the final check-in would be 2/11, and that would be the superintendent evaluation, self-evaluation.
And that would be an executive session.
That's an executive session, yes.
May
All
I?
of these are, sorry, let me clarify that really quick. 10/8, anything quarterly check-in, all of those are executive
Okay.
session unless Krista decides to do it in open session.
Okay.
May I throw something at you all?
Absolutely.
Could we move the self-evaluation, could we move like the self-evaluation to March and then the submitting to April's? To discuss I think we had to do it anyways. We didn't do anything in March. Like, I think I did the self-evaluation in March and then we did like the beginning of April. Remember, we were kind of off and things got.
Yeah, I do. Can you, Laura, really quick, can you just pull up her end date of what we owe her for her contract evaluation? I can't remember if that's May. I think it's May 1st that we owe you.
Hold on, let me look.
Oh, okay.
See, this is
We
why.
did an executive
on our
session
desktop.
on March
Mhm, it
20th.
is.
No, that's the new one.
Executive session on the 20th.
Nope, that's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nope, that's it.
And we didn't change your contract renew date. We just
No,
moved
this
it.
is
We
super-
did an executive session on February 28th that was in regards to reviewing and evaluating employment related performance of the chief executive officer.
So it does say, and I'm okay with it, it does say in my contract that no later than October 1st of each year. So I'm okay with saying that we would
October
just,
1st.
yes, but I'm okay with saying we just do it at our board meeting rather than throw in another meeting. So that's something, Laura, can you document that I'm okay with that?
Say that one again.
That in my contract, it specifically does say that no later than October 1st of each year, the board and the superintendent shall mutually agree and put in writing the performance goals and standards that will be used to evaluate. I am okay with moving it to the board meeting date of October 8th.
We just modify the
Well, I
language to
think
say the
we're
board
approving
meeting in
the
October.
method tonight, right?
Yes, but it's saying that you agree and put in right the performance goals and standards. So
Of goals
my,
and standards. Okay.
but I said I would also, I remember that one, I said
Yeah.
that's too soon, so I said we would.
We should look at that next year, but, so when do you want your I guess, that, do you want to adjust these dates and then document that we would agree to push your evaluation past the date?
So I'm okay with the fall check-in and the winter check-in. I'd like to do the super evaluation at the March board meeting.
Yes.
That's a bad day.
Why?
It's my birthday.
Oh, yeah, it is too.
That day, that's a
It's an
good day.
amazing day.
It's a
You know what
bad
they
day.
told me
I don't
about
wanna
my
be in a board
birthday?
meeting on March 11th.
They told me about
I'm
my
sick that
birthday, we'll
day.
bring a cake, but then they moved it. I never got my cake, but they did move it.
All right, so 3/11. So then if we do 3/11,
I'm sick that day.
And
That's
then the
me as
board,
18th
didn't you
birthday.
guys do like we had a work session
Me is 18.
where you did the, where you-
Yeah, so
wasn't
then-
Vince, didn't Vince come and do it?
So then this would be, so like gathering information from the board for ratings would be 3/25, it's 2 weeks. And that's through email, if you guys remember that, so you guys
Yep,
can
I
submit
do.
everything through email.
Yep.
And then compiling results would be April 8th. Cause that would be at the board meeting.
And that would be an executive session.
Oh, wait, we did not do it, we did an additional one off.
Be more specific.
So we actually did a one off executive session, didn't we?
Yep, on the March,
Yeah,
We did it. Mhm.
cause then we presented it at the next board meeting.
Yeah,
The 28th,
Yes.
wasn't it?
there was an executive session on March 20th.
we did the evaluation, then Krista came back and we talked, and then we
Yeah.
did the next one where
It
we
was March 14th.
did whatever we did.
So the 28th, I think, is where I presented results. March 14th was a regular meeting. March 20th was a special meeting.
A special executive session. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we did it. So,
And she presented it at the April 17th.
so we could do like April 1st.
For board and
I will not,
superintendent meetings?
I more than likely will not be here April 1st.
Oh, and 3/25.
Don't tell me
is-
it's your birthday.
Well, and actually 3/25 is gonna be
Spring break.
spring break
So why don't you guys do instead of 3/25, why wouldn't you do 4/1?
for one,
On the gathering?
for gathering information.
And then compiling results would be presenting on 4/8, and then we meet to discuss.
4/8 is a board meeting night.
Yeah, do it before.
I mean, do you just want to do like a long board meeting night? We could do an executive session, discuss the results.
Yeah.
And then, then you know, on 5, the next one, you guys
It
can,
took
go on
us, it
for
took
like
us
several hours.
2.5 hours. So
I can.
I'm
Right.
just saying, I'm not saying, I'm
Can
gonna,
we do the executive session at the end, so we get the business handled first?
You can do that,
Yes.
yes.
And then just make it a long night and
We'll bring dinner.
bring a potluck.
I don't have any issue with that at all. I'm just trying, okay, so keep 4/8 as the board compiles results.
If for some
I
reason.
mean, the only downside in that is it's a school day the next day, so if, I mean, that's,
We could also do it, I'm gonna be honest with you, you could also maybe
I'm
do
all
it on
about
4/10.
having less
I mean, you could
meetings,
do it
but-
like
We could do
that
a-
Thursday, a
We could do
special
a
meeting.
special executive meeting on 4/10.
Do a board meeting on the 4/8 and then do an executive session on 4/10.
I mean, I'm all about
So,
eliminating meetings, but I'm
Compiling the
also,
results and presents is 4/1.
Individual board
Yes.
member rating is 4/1.
And then 4/10 for compiling results.
So we're not gonna do it during the board meeting? We're gonna have another one that week?
Oh, I'm
Unless-
so confused.
Gathering information is 4/1.
So that would be via email, remember you guys
Oh, I
sent
thought that
in?
was 3/25 meeting.
No, because that also
That's
is
spring break.
spring break.
But if it's via email,
But I don't know what events is. I mean, we'll have to run all this by events too anyways, but.
I'm not sure, but less meetings the better. Let's just do that. Let's focus on that.
Okay, so 4/8 is what
that's
I'm
not
hearing.
necessarily true
just
if you want to
messing with
get community involvement.
There don't get
Well,
to be
these are
involved in it.
executive
I'm not
sessions.
saying this, but
I'm
he says
like-
the less meetings,
Oh,
the
I'm
better.
like,
I was just saying, for these two things,
Yeah,
this
no,
is
it's
It's
executive
just
session,
us.
so they don't
I'm
get.
kind of like, you know,
Okay, so compile, I'm hearing 4/8 right now for compiling results, where the board compiles and presents to the superintendent, and the board and superintendent meet to discuss the results, so we would compile and present the same night.
The only thing is if you compile and present in the same night, you would have to go into executive session, sit there, blah, 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 blah. The one thing I would tell you, they have presentation and approval,
This would be the next, this would be the May meeting.
that would be the May meeting now. Because then I would have needed time to come back, to go back into
Yes.
executive session and say, here's what I think.
So is that where so you want board compiles results and presents them to you on 4/8, and then you only want 2 days to,
Well, can I ask you guys a question? Would it just be easier to go back under quarterly check-ins? Let's just do 3/11 under superintendent self-evaluation. Let's do 2. Can we just maybe do an extra meeting in February and then it wouldn't be so late? Does that make sense? So instead of me saying in March, let's just go back to February.
For the superintendent
Yep,
self-evaluation.
and then that way we don't throw off. We could do individual board member ratings submitted. You could do that in,
So that's gonna be on 3-3 then for gathering information.
so 3-3, okay.
So
That's by
So
email.
back to 211.
So,
211,
yeah,
yep.
So quarterly check-ins, the last one would be 211. And then and then that gives us about 3 weeks to do, gathering our information and our ratings will be 3-3. And then if we look at the board compiles results, I think that's 311 is what I had, but I don't know if that's right now.
So 311 would be the board meeting, but remember that again was an executive session. So
Yeah.
do you guys want to do a board meeting and an executive session? Because if I remember correctly, that was a whole separate.
It was a whole
Yeah,
separate
and it
meeting.
was several hours.
So do you guys maybe want to meet on the 18th of March?
I can't do,
Yeah.
I can't do the third Tuesday because I have rural caucus.
Okay. Do you want to meet then maybe on the 13th of March? So you have the meeting on the 11th, you can meet on the 13th?
is that a Thursday?
It is. And then we'll,
Potentially, it could be a problem depending for me
Mhm.
because of being open Thursday, Friday, Saturday for dinner, but I don't know how.
How about
long.
Wednesday then?
the 12th,
Mhm.
would that work better?
Yes.
So why don't you do 312? And then we could meet, that's 25, thank you.
And then we would meet, we,
We would meet that same night, you guys would come to, yeah, you would
Present it.
present it.
but then board and student meet to discuss results.
That would be the same night, remember I came
You
in,
still want to do that in that same night?
Yeah.
And then you would get time to respond.
then I would respond at the next one.
Yeah, because she didn't want to wait last time. She
Yeah.
sat here chewing her nails waiting.
Yeah, we
Okay.
tried to convince her to not, but she won't do it anyway.
Yeah.
So then 4-8 is a double whammy. So 4-8 is where you, the superintendent, gets to present to us in an executive
Mhm.
session, your feelings on the evaluation, correct?
Mhm.
And then we would also present the summary to the board of what we will present to the public.
Mhm.
And then we present to the public. So it'd be an exec session and regular session
Yep.
on
Okay.
4-8.
Which is what, when I look back last year, it was 417.
Now that I scribbled all over my paper.
Well,
So
Mhm.
compiling
even
results
forgot to
is
put 25.
312.
Oh, yeah, I'm still on 24.
compiling results, which,
Those
Yep.
two dates.
Yep.
Presents
yes, 312.
312.
The day after the board meeting.
Yeah.
So we don't do it all on the same day.
Oh, yes.
And we
Okay.
could bring dinner that night.
There's nothing with
So
tomatoes.
can I speak through it to make sure I have my notes
Please
correctly?
do.
Okay, so I have I'm going just by the first box from top to bottom. I
Thank you.
have 813, 10-8, 813, 10-8, 12-10, 211, 3-3, 312, and 4-8.
There were
312,
312
312,
too.
and 4-8.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Do you have all of that?
I do.
Yes.
So one of the things, Laura, that I think I would ask is once they approve it, let's put it on their calendars. Because we forgot to do that last year and they were like,
Yes.
oh no,
I know.
we have to, yeah.
I'm gonna put it on my fridge.
I'm going to put it in my calendar.
All
I don't
right.
know how to use that.
So we've gone through a list of dates for this. Is there a motion to approve the superintendent evaluation schedule?
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent evaluation planning schedule.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Thank you. Any discussion? Just say great minds, you guys. Good job. Laura?
Russ,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. All right, 5B in our new business is our school district strategic direction and planning process. You want to kick that one off for us?
So the board had mentioned last year that we'd really start looking and talking about our district vision and mission. And I think that this would lead us then when we do this mission and vision, that then we could start building a strategic plan. And really, when you start looking at districts that have strategic plans, their superintendent goals is built off the strategic plan. I don't also think it would be a bad thing for us to do, because right now I'm just kind of making up goals based on what I'm seeing. And I think that it would be really important, now that we have things kind of moving on the same road in the right direction, that we sit there and say, okay, we have this vision for 50 years down the road. This is where we want to go. Here are our goals to get there. Vince had talked about this a lot, and I think it's important for us to do that. And that way, when, you know, when we have to make tough choices, we can say, we had this direction, we asked for community input. These are our goals. This is where we're going for. And that way it's not just it's like we have all agreed based on everything that we've heard from community, staff, students. These are the 3 things we want to do. And so this is a proposal from OSBA to facilitate that process. And I actually think it would be a great process. We could get into, you know, we could have our administrator, our school administrators come in. Part of some of this is also getting community input. And then based on that, we would really then do that plan development. We would do strategic plans, and then there would be a goal set that we know when we start having to prioritize or make the hard decisions, you have those goals. People just don't feel like you're throwing putty or noodles against the wall to see what. So, this would cost the board, I believe it's about $5,000, but I actually think it'd be worth it. So,
I think that was pretty resounding across the board in our presentations over the weekend. And some neat phrases that were put
So
in that
weird.
were
So strange.
a portrait of an ALSI graduate and a portrait of an ALSI educator. It'd be really interesting to get the staff, student, community members input on that and see what they envision. And I just think it would be a really good idea. And then one thing I also want to say at this moment, because I think it's going to frame this, is we talked about community, and we have a community, the town of Alsea community, but our school doesn't just serve the town of Alsea. So we need to make a board shift in thinking. I personally have to do a better job of making a shift in thinking that we have a school community within our Alsea community. So we have a responsibility to help our community integrate with the school community and how they can support the school community, but it's not going to look like everything that the Alsea community wants and needs. So I think we need to keep that perspective moving forward.
So my question to you is, you need us to vote on this tonight, and then are you gonna contact Vince or, okay,
if you guys are ready to move forward now, if you read the whole proposal, the cap cost would be 8,500. I don't actually think we would get there. I think we would probably cap at 5,000, but I don't think this is bad work. I think we're ready to do this work. I think, you know, as we move forward, whether or not I'm here 5 years from now, or you have a new whatever, you know, you would have these strategic plans. And so it wouldn't be somebody new came in and be like, well, guess what we're doing now? You could say the board and the community set these goals, this vision and this mission, and these are the strategic goals we want to work on. And like I said, in districts that have strategic goals, their superintendent's goals are based on how well are they helping the district make those goals. So I think we're ready to go in this direction.
are you ready to go in this
Yeah, we
direction?
did.
Because I think we held off a little bit last year also to not pile another huge thing on your plate.
Guess
So-
what? Ready or not, here we come. So
Okay.
we just go.
I feel like this is very important, and yeah, it's a chunk of change, but if you haven't done this before, I feel like we would just spin our wheels and not get anything done without paying for some help.
I think also while it's a chunk of change, how much money are we spending right now without this, that we might be able to align our funds better to a strategy. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
I'll make a motion to go forward with Alsea's strategic planning proposal.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Laura,
Deb? Russ?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Soren?
Yes.
Christine?
yes.
Sorry. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Just like to say, Laura, that he did not have the ALSI strategic planning proposal on his computer, on his board books.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out right now.
And so,
That- That's happened to you before too, Deb, right?
Uh-huh.
It's been like an individual like oddity.
It's
yeah,
weird. Yeah,
he's
I
having
was
lots
just
of
like-
troubles with his board books tonight, so I'm sharing mine with him.
Okay.
but-
Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird because she was singing on hers and I wasn't singing on mine, but that's okay. Like, I'm not overly worried. Just
Oh, I thought you were writing them out for voting on something that you didn't see.
No, he's out on mine.
Thank you for sharing, Deb. All right, next up, 5C student voice on the board.
So, oh, I didn't know it was mine. So Jamie brought a proposal to bring a student, representative. I will put it out to sophomores, juniors and seniors to see if anybody would be interested. In speaking with my colleagues, what a lot of them do is they bring a report to the board to read and talk about what's, happening, at school. And then depending on if the student wanted to stay to have those to continue to have the conversations, I think we could start off that way. I probably would ask that the students start in October at the meeting to give them enough time, but I'll put it out there and see if we get any bites. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
initially, they'll just be giving us a report.
Because this is the thing I think we also have to remember too. We don't want somebody to sit here who has no idea what we're talking about. And so some schools say some kids want to stay and they want to listen because they've looked at the agenda and it's interesting to them. And some of them are like, they just want to give the report and go home. So to me, I could say you have to stay the whole board meeting. You may not get a lot of people. So I think if we want to hear what the students have to say, we also have to kind of lean towards what they would be willing to. And if some of them want to stay and have that, more than welcome. So that's what some districts do. Now, I looked into Lebanon and they're doing that piece where they actually made kids apply for it. And they have a huge list of expectations. But I think also in some aspects, like if you want somebody to come here and give their opinion about policy or whatever, they actually need to read and understand what the policy is versus being like, I don't know, because then you might get into some issues of a child might say something that you're like, not really appropriate at the meeting. So I think we start off that way and we can put on our reports, we can put student representative and they could submit their report to you all prior and talk about it. And then if they choose to say, like, if there's something that to me that really tickles their fancy, they can stay and you guys can ask questions of them. So that's kind of where, I mean,
I think that's a good starting point. Plant the seed and get them to start, maybe be a little bit more critical thinkers and presenting what's going on in their school, show some pride in what's happening. See, maybe if we could place them, maybe not the very first thing on the meeting, but not the last thing on the meeting, just to kind of get them, maybe even after some of the principal reports or maybe after patron comments, when they can hear what their community has to say about what's happening potentially.
I mean, it's gonna take, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's gonna take a kid who's willing to speak up in public.
And do we have a student body president?
We do
here?
not.
I
And
mean, is this
so,
gonna be like a student government thing or just a? school
nope, we
board?
don't have any of that. So
I
it
know,
would
but,
be,
like, what I'm asking is, how are you gonna ask these kids to be?
I'm gonna send out an email to all the sophomores, juniors and seniors and say, if you're interested, please come talk to me about it. Another thing is we do have a leadership class and we could ask, if a student each month from that leadership class wants to come and present. That may mean you may not get the same student. So it's up to you all.
I mean, I
Planting the seed
guess-
to get them involved and show them that they have a voice and some investment in their district and what we're working with them as a board, and eventually grow to student government and potentially even a spot at our table. But right now, we gotta plant the seed and show them that we're interested in hearing from them and we want them to be involved and get to know what's happening behind the table a little bit.
So I mean, it's up to you guys if you want me just to give it to the leadership. And like I said, you might just get a different kid each time. I'm willing to bring that out to Ms. Hendricks.
I think you should just put it out there for all of them and maybe even try and start up the student body president.
Yeah, I was thinking like,
follow
why-
that
why
again.
maybe we can do like an extracurricular for student
Well-
government, since you can't do it in school.
You can do student body in school. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. It's harder than just starting it up. You actually would have to write a charter. So I mean, it's gonna take time to get it, but that's kind of where I think we should go anyways. But I'll just put it out there and see and just say we want to start, you know, in October. The time commitment would be the second Tuesday of every month between about an hour. You can stay at the meetings if you like and participate, or you can just submit a report and read that report.
Can we do it an invitation from the board?
Whatever.
I mean, could the invitation come from Racine as the chair of the board on behalf of all of us? To say we,
How did I get voluntold? No, I'm just kidding.
you nominated
Consider
yourself.
coming from Krista.
But well,
I-
the
I-
only thing that I would say is I think it's a great idea. It probably should still come from my email.
Yeah.
I can go in and talk to the kids and I would keep it to sophomores, juniors and seniors. And I can talk to the kids like the first week and say, hey, you all got an email. If you're interested, please drop me an email and
I'm happy to put it into a PDF, like if
And
you
if
want
nobody
to share an attachment.
volunteers, yeah, make an assignment for each of us.
unfortunately,
know.
unfortunately, we cannot
I
make them
know.
come in their own time.
It was
But-
a joke.
Yeah, no, I
It
don't
would be
disagree.
nice to see.
Yeah, so we could start that and see how it goes for the year.
Yeah.
And
I think we have to start somewhere, and like I said, I think it's planting the seed.
Okay,
So is there a motion? Do we need a
do we need a
motion?
No.
motion?
We
you
don't need a
just say,
motion.
Krista, you need to do this.
There's a consensus of the board to do this.
I've been
so
voluntold.
I will work with you on a letter. 'Cause
Okay.
that's new to me to write that. Letter, invitation to
So we already approved on the super eval thing, right?
Well, so I feel, so unfortunately, I did this out of order because I saw this late, sorry. The approved evaluation and standards process. So we did the COSA standards and workbook last year. That's the COSA OSB. I just want to make sure that we vote to make sure we're approving those same standards this year, if that's what this board would like to do.
Well, can I throw a wrench in it?
Oh.
In my contract, it says those are the ones you will use
Well,
that we
then-
agreed on.
then we
Their
don't need
COSAs?
5D.
Okay.
Any objection, unless there's any objection from the board on that. Thank you for looking at that. So, Laura, can you just remove 5D because it's per Chris's contract? Oh, thank you. No problem. All right. Old business, nothing in our old business. We don't have anything for policies for first or second reading. Let's do board comments this evening. Jamie, you said, I'm gonna throw you under the bus first. You said you had some board comments you wanted to share this evening. Do you still want
Well,
to
I
share?
kind of have shared some.
Well, that's okay. Is there anything else you wanted to
Um,
share?
I'll bet some of them are the same as mine. So if you go first, I don't have to say it.
That's not the way that.
So-
should
Yeah, I
be.
agree
I
with
guess
you.
my overall thing is, I believe we need to schedule a work session, and maybe it's going to fit seamlessly into the strategic planning. But I think we need to discuss some takeaways from the conference, such as community outreach, some potential opportunities to include AI education into our policies. There's talk about cell phone bans. There's just different program ideas. My brain just went crazy. I think that's more for Krista and I's personal conversation. But I think it's time. I think it's time, like you said, to give us a brand, to create opportunities for kids and make our school a destination. And I think that may start requiring a few more meetings and getting together and be really intentional in making this happen. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of my takeaways had to do with the strategic planning and how important it was. And I got a bunch of ideas about maybe implementing this strategic plan or reflecting on it. It's kind of jumping out ahead of ourselves because we haven't done it yet, but there were ideas about, sharing the strategic plan. Like one school said they did a strategic plan accountability report every year and they publish it publicly. That seemed like a good idea. And then asking that all the reports of the board reflect some way on the strategic plan and vision, that it just putting stuff out there about what the school was doing, say this is what they're doing, that specifically has to do with the, why we're doing it. There were a couple ideas on community engagement, because I was really concerned about, as we work on our strategic planning, how are we gonna get the community engaged? They won't even respond to like questionnaires. And one idea was every board member personally brings like 4 or 5 people with them to that workshop where we work on strategic planning.
I don't know that many people.
And that's-
Kids
I
don't
was gonna
count.
delegate my people to you.
Yeah, I don't know
Just
that
like
many
say,
people.
if you wanna eat dinner, you come with
Yeah.
the state.
They're gonna laugh hysterically. Run the other way.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
And then one other, again, these are not general overarching ideas, but specifically was about attendance. The Vernonia School District said that they had got decreased their non-regular attenders from like 60% to 30%, mainly by reaching out, like when you honor the kids for every attendance, reach out to their families and like reward the families, not just the kids, because a lot of that just kind of gets lost by the time the kid gets home with their t-shirt. Parents are like, "Yeah, okay." But anyway, it was just an interesting thing. They had really cut down on this non-regular attendance.
Russ or
Starbucks card
Dad,
if your kid has a good attendance.
for the parents?
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
I think
Human
they
being.
did like a family, like
They
a
did it.
full meal thing.
Yeah.
That was a reward that everybody that got their attendance.
A Timbers game. They got like
They-
swag
yeah,
to a Timbers
swag
game.
to a
They got to
Timbers
go to a
game.
Timbers game.
Uh,
It was like a family gift.
I don't
Yeah,
see us
and getting family, family
doing that much.
recognition at those assemblies where you honor the attendance, but it'd be really cool too if we could invite families to participate, even if it's via Zoom for Student of the Month. Just to, again, try to find every single way possible to pull in the family connection. Those are some of my itemized things from my conversation with Krista.
Russ or Stephanie, board comments?
good.
All right, I have one. It does come from the conference. I'm gonna reiterate that, Vince did call this board a rising phoenix, which I think is an amazing compliment. But I sat in a board leadership roundtable hot topic. And we had to, as these people that sat around the table, we had to talk about where we're going and what we've accomplished. And with a little bit of humor, with LC board member on my name tag, nice and bright, I said, well, we're not in the news anymore. And I kind of chuckled and I laughed, but then I listed off the things that we've done as a school, as as a community, as a school. There's CTE building. There's a new gym floor that's in there. There's an HVAC system. There's windows in our schools that we didn't think we were even going to be able to do with the new HVAC system. There's order in the hallways. The culture's coming up. We've talked about, possibly looking at our charter explanation of what we want. So I just think, like, as I listed all these things off, I thought, oh my gosh, Vince was right. What we do in this board meeting affects the students the next day. And I really just would like to congratulate all of you guys because this has been a year of turnaround and it's been amazing. So I'm super excited about that. Those are my board comments. Future agenda items. Anybody have any future agenda items?
I have some potential policies to take a look at if we're going to lean towards and embrace some appropriate utilization of AI. I would recommend looking at the IKI with AR, the IIBG, and the IIA with AR.
So hurry up and write that down.
Well, what I was actually gonna say was,
I
if
have
we're,
it
I was
typed.
gonna say, can we send it to Laura and then, yeah, is the board interested in that? I think that's what comes up with these future agenda items. Is it needs to be like of the consensus of the board to do that.
So a little bit more behind that, it pretty much was stated, is the world that we live in now. We either need to get on board and teach our students how to use it safely, appropriately, respectfully, professionally, or we really, in essence, would be setting them up to be behind the ball. And I don't think that's what any of us want for our students. So many professionals use these different systems. And the gentleman that presented in this presentation was an occupational therapist that worked with Tiger Tualatin School District, and he showed 2 students with disabilities. I was in tears at the doors that this can open for student success. So that's my background on why I think we need to take a look at those and potentially entertain this idea.
And Jamie, just for clarification on these policies, these are not artificial intelligence policies. They're
No,
academic integrity, and then there was a technology one, right? Like
Yes.
appropriate uses of technology.
I
So they
don't
tried to keep
remember.
the, they tried to keep it,
Have to use with technology and our appropriate use.
Yeah. they tried to keep it broad so that it didn't pigeonhole anybody into like any way the technology changes in the world. It could keep being used.
And
essentially.
for reference, if you wanted to go in and reference, it's Tiger Tualatin's policies that are currently in place. So I looked at them and kind of compared them. Theirs are actually appear to be shorter than ours. So like this much instead of this much.
So I would ask that Laura, you send it to Laura and then we can get, if the board wants us to, we could get, OSBA's policies and see.
At least look at it.
Yeah.
it's worth looking- I had the same kind of takeaway from that session as that AI is out there, kids are gonna use it, teachers are gonna use it. Maybe get some policies in place before it becomes a problem. And they were like, make them as general as possible to accompany any kind of technology that might pop up.
I think there was some teachers who want it in their class and some teachers did, and so the policies actually empowered teachers to decide what was best for their classrooms. and their
That's what I was gonna say.
So that's really where, like, that was part of what I really liked too, besides what Jamie shared about the occupational therapist. Really great conversation around empowering our teachers, being able to use different lesson plans to meet the student where they're at. It was really an amazing session. Thanks for telling me to go to that.
I went to one at my COSA conference and I was like, I just have to go to something. And then it was so intriguing. And I used AI to write a grant, so.
Well, I think it's just a touch and subject.
But
AI,
AI,
I think it is.
Is it?
Especially in education, because kids just use it to cheat and write their papers for them too. So it's a touchy subject, right? Like,
But there are
I mean-
tools to catch that.
yeah, for teachers, for sure.
Well, I mean,
But,
and it's one of those they talked about, especially for students with
I
disabilities.
mean, I don't let any AI in my house, just honestly. I think if you can't do your own research and work, you don't need AI to help you. But it's even on Facebook now. You can just say, have AI rewrite your post to help people, right? So I just think when you bring up AI, it brings up a whole set of emotions with people because there's there's an idea behind AI that it is artificial, right? It is programmed by a person. For example, Google's AI says what Google wants you to hear. Apple says what Apple's want you to hear, and other non-traditional AIs say what you want it to. I mean, I just think it's important. I agree. But with the context that AI isn't always right,
Mhm.
right?
Well, that was very
I mean,
well
that's the
distinguished.
problem, right? And so when you get these kids that start working with AI, there has to be a real trained method because, you know, you can just say, yeah, well, I won't get into things on a public meeting,
right.
but it's just important
Yeah.
that AI can generate anything,
Mhm.
and it sometimes it gets around the security systems of the internet in schools because it's not necessarily pornography to AI, but you can get an anime to do that same thing. So you just really have to have some strict protocols in place when kids start playing with AI programs because what I've read lately is that these, especially when it comes to trafficking children and other things, that AI, it's obscured the lens of security because it says it's fictional or it's anime or it's a cartoon, but then behind it is something else. So I just think it's a very,
I would love to.
it's a
have
little ambiguous
the
right
people
now.
That did the presentation, I'm still waiting on files.
But
That's my personal, as a parent, feeling.
well, but you're not sharing anything that they also didn't highlight and talk through. So I think your opinion
Yeah.
board member or parent is 100% spot on of risks to evaluate.
Yeah.
Any other agenda items to consider? All right, let's see if I can get these dates right. August 19th to the 22nd is staff and service. August 26th is the first day of school. September 2nd, Labor Day, no school. September 6th, that Friday, school in session. September 9th, school picture day. And then September 10th, we'll have a board meeting.
And if any of you would like to come in and take your picture, we could get it for our website, our new website. Yeah. So if any of you would like to come in and if you're just happening in town, you're like, I need a picture and,
I think mine's already there.
yeah, but if you don't, if you want to change it or whatever.
No, I was thinner then.
Stop.
Yeah, I'm better now. I'll take that picture.
All right, with that, we're gonna go ahead and adjourn at 7:30. Good evening.
Why would I want to show off that?